My topic this morning is sexual harassment. And I know that you've had the opportunity so far to learn about communication skills, how to listen. You know that there's many management techniques you need to integrate into your organization. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the law. And I know that the majority of you came here today because you wanted to learn about and hear about the law. And Rocky was close. I actually live down in Austin, Texas. I live down in Austin, and I drove up yesterday. It was very nice. And what I'm going to do is take a few minutes to share with you the sexual harassment topic and let you know a little bit about my approach to the training and what you at your organization need to know about this exciting legal topic. How many lawyers do I have in the room? How many lawyers are willing to admit it? Okay, all right. One brave soul. I know there are more of you in here hiding. Won't come out of the closet. That's okay. We can talk one-on-one at lunch. I want to throw out the first point. My first point is sexual harassment training is mandatory. It is absolutely 100% required by law. How many of you have had sexual harassment training at your organization within the last year? Okay, there's a lot of hands I don't see raised. When I say sexual harassment training is mandatory, what I mean in real life is this. If you fail to train, and you need to train frequently, probably annually, if you fail to train, and then if you get sued, you will have literally no defense to the claim. How many of your organizations have never, ever been sued? One, maybe two. The reality is, it's not a question of if you'll be sued, it's just a question of when. We live in a very litigious society. And what that means is, one, we have a lot of attorneys in the United States of America. In America, we have more lawyers per capita than anywhere else in the whole wide world. And all of those lawyers need to eat. So on one hand, we have a well-educated, able body of trained attorneys out there to zealously represent their clients. And on the other hand, we have a lot of people, a lot of employees who are really quick to go and file lawsuits. And a lot of that is because your organization hasn't trained appropriately on how to resolve problems in-house. So they go outside to the EEOC and they file these sexual harassment lawsuits. The training is your only affirmative defense. The training is when you're sued, then you go to court and you explain that you did train and you did everything you possibly could to try to prevent this problem. Training for sexual harassment. When I train for sexual harassment, you have two different categories of employees have to be trained. We've got managers and supervisory personnel, and then we've got non-supervisory personnel. Is there a difference in the training that managers should have versus non-supervisors? Yeah, a lot of people are saying yes, absolutely, because the federal courts have told us last year that every single manager and supervisor at your organization has to know and should be trained in sexual harassment, in addition to all the other Title VII laws, in ADA and ADEA, that all of your managers and supervisors should know and have to know this basic employment law. And if they fail to, then your organization will be exposed to something called punitive damages. Anyone heard of this phrase? Punitive damages. What does it mean? What does it mean? The word punitive, what does the word punitive mean? Punishment. And what does the word damages mean in the legal system? Money. So punitive damages is simply punishment money. Punishment money. These amounts of punitive damages, are they little teeny tiny amounts, a couple $1,000s? No, they can be a lot of money. They can be a lot of money. In fact, out of California a couple of months ago, we had a grocery store chain named Ralph's Grocery Store out of California that was sued for sexual harassment. And the punitive damages in this case were $30 million. It is a requirement that you train. And it is a requirement that you train your managers and supervisors differently than you train your non-supervisors. A lot of organizations that I go into for sexual harassment training, the only reason I'm there is because, surprise, surprise, there's been a lawsuit. And then the organization says to themselves, I guess we need to train. So they bring in a trainer, and then I get there, especially with non-supervisors, and people will come to the training. I can look on their faces and tell they're thrilled to be there. And they'll start, a lot of times they'll come up to me and they'll say, sexual harassment training, are you going to teach us how to sexually harass? And it's amazing. And I've trained, this year alone, I've trained federal agencies, lots of them, like National Institutes of Health and OSHA, National Park Service. And I was at the Department of Justice. I was at a federal prison down in Bastrop, Texas, just last week. And with a federal agency, a state agency, a county, or with these Fortune 500 companies that I go to train. Monday of this week, I was in Chicago with Quaker Oats. And all these different organizations. The consistency of treating sexual harassment like it's a joke is amazing to me. It's absolutely amazing. And it's the organizations that have problems, that have lawsuits, that think it's the funniest. Those are the ones. And I'll tell you, when I started training, I was so passionate. I said to myself, I've got to get in these organizations and do everything in my power to make them see what they need to do to be in compliance. And then that way, I can prevent lawsuits. And so I went out and I started training about 2 years ago, had the opportunity to work with Rockhurst, and I'd go and we'd have a great training. People would leave, they'd be fired up. They said, I understand what not to do. I know the difference between quid pro quo and hostile work environment. I'm ready to go. And then 6 months later, I come back, and guess what? Yeah, more lawsuits. No one is following through. Now, I personally am in a very fortunate situation. I have a wonderful life. I have opportunities that I am so appreciative of on a daily basis. And one of the realities of my life is I can either help your organization on the front end. In other words, we can be proactive. We can train. We can customize solutions for your company. And we can prevent lawsuits. And we can prevent management problems and attitude issues and turnover. Or if we don't work on the front end and we don't prevent these problems, then I, in my other job as an attorney, can help on the back end. And what that means is when you don't do your training or you do the training incorrectly and your people do not follow the law, then down in my office in Austin, and my company is called Law Offices of Courtney E. Anderson. I've been in private practice for about 4 years, ever since I left teaching at UT Austin. Then people come to my office down there, it's downtown in Austin, and they'll tell me all about the horrible things that happen to them at your employment place. And they'll hire me to sue you. And I have handled many, many of these cases. And I've sued major airlines like American. I've sued Wells Fargo. I've sued very large entities that apparently don't take this seriously. But when I get involved on the back end, is that fun for your company? No. And I continue to be amazed at what people do at these organizations. Can one bad manager, can one person bring down your organization? Yes. And when I train, what I do is I focus a lot on integrating the kind of management skills you need to have in place to make sure you're following the law. Because you have to have people in leadership positions that have leadership skills to ensure there's consistency and compliance. And I also will work a lot with people who have attitude problems. Because guess what? The people who come to work, who are the whiners, we mentioned earlier. Any one of you work with whiners? People that come, another day, another dollar. Nobody appreciates me here. Nobody cares about me. These people, are they more likely to file lawsuits or less likely? More likely. The problem group self-identifies themselves. This is the group that's more likely to go to the EEOC. This is the group that's more likely to get a lawyer. Why? Because they were unhappy when they were working there, and they're still unhappy. And this is the group that's very tenacious in pursuing legal remedy. So what we're going to do, when I come to your organization, we work ahead of time to customize solutions that work for your organization. I need to know about the demographics of your organization, what you do on a daily basis. I need to know if there are any current lawsuits or any current management issues. Have you had any changes? Then what I will do is break out managers and supervisors, and we'll give them the intensive training that they need to have to understand all those laws. And more importantly, not just understand them, what do they do with them? How do they write a performance evaluation the right way? How do they use progressive discipline the appropriate way? And we'll empower them. Because their goal is to solve problems in-house and to prevent those unhappy people from going to the government and going to outside counsel. And then we're going to take your non-supervisors, and I'll explain things to them a little bit differently, and I'm going to instill in them a sense of trust in your organization. And we're going to work with your HR department so that these people will be trained to come to you when they have problems, not go to the EEOC, not go to lawyers. It can be done, and I can do it in almost any organization. The sexual harassment, which a lot of times I get a lot of giggles, people think it's really, really funny, it isn't. The neat thing is these problems are 100% preventable. They are. We just need to identify the solutions, we need to train, be realistic, and then we need to follow up with some metrics that we can measure to make sure that the training is appropriate for what we're delivering. I want you to know that no matter what you decide, whether you leave here today and say, we need to train, we're motivated, we're going to prevent lawsuits, or if you say to yourself, we don't need to train, I could care less. No matter what decision you make, I am fortunate enough to be able to work and feed myself. I will either prevent problems with training and working with you, or if you don't heed the words, then I'm down there in Austin. I've got a toll-free number. Many people up in North Texas call me, and then I will still be able to work with you, but it will be in a little bit more antagonistic way. So I thank you so much for coming today. I hope that you're enjoying it. My name, once again, is Courtney Anderson. I train on any variety of topics, from the legal, the management, communication, motivation, inspiring and uplifting your workplace. I enjoy what I do. I look forward to the opportunity to meet as many of you as possible before we leave here today. Thank you very much.